Donald Trump now has the attorney general he has always wanted. That is the subheadline of the New Yorker article by Ruth Marcus titled Pam Bondi's Power Play. The article describes Attorney General Bondi's handling of the Epstein files crisis as, quote, a frantic scramble to appease Trump and the MAGA movement. Ruth Marcus reports, Bondi's performance has produced almost universal outrage from Democrats, and in private, at least, the unhappiness crosses party lines. I spoke to officials who have served at senior levels in every Republican Justice Department since Ronald Reagan's, including some who support much of Trump's agenda. They shared criticism of Bondi that ranged from troubled to appalled, worrying about everything from what one former senior official called Bondi's ferociously sycophantic rhetoric about the president to the purges of career staff. Bondi, many have concluded, has turned the Justice Department into a mere arm of the White House. The Attorney General's chief of staff, Chad Mizell, actually told Ruth Marcus, quote, we actually get to do everything that the president wants us to do, everything that Pam wants us to do. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse is back with us. And Senator, that last statement by this Chad Mizell, we actually get to do everything that the president wants us to do and everything that Pam wants us to do, is specifically what all previous administrations refused to allow to occur in the Justice Department.
Yeah, I think pretty much everybody, you don't even have to be a lawyer to understand that there are several dimensions to being president. One is that you are the president of the United States. The other is that you are the political head of your party and have a political aspect to your life. And the third is that you have your personal and your business life, and that's your other persona. And what the Department of Justice is supposed to respond to is the president acting as the president. And the fact that this Department of Justice doesn't parse out that when it's billionaire Trump and his business interests that are talking, they really shouldn't be listening. When it's political Trump and his political agenda that's being pursued, they shouldn't be listening. When he's acting as president, yeah, that's when you should be listening. But the fact that they don't recognize this division of the aspects of a president's life and fence off the stuff where they should not be his operatives, it's pretty telling. And the way the whole department runs now, it's kind of equal parts, Gangster and Gong show with that thug Emil Bove, who's headed for the Third Circuit as the true gangster, and weaponization dude Martin as the Gong show guy, literally showing up in like trench coats, playing, special agent man in front of people's homes. And then who knows what Todd Blanche was up to? Was he suborning perjury when he went to go see Ghislaine Maxwell? Was he running a political errand for Trump? Was it just clownishly bad judgment on his part? But I don't think you have to be a very experienced prosecutor to know that this is a Department of Justice that is way, way, way off the rails. And as I said in the first segment, the last people in the world that they want to notice that are noticing that, and that is the federal judges that have to appear in front of day in and day out.
And everything that you just described, from the weirdo in the trench coat in 88 degrees in a New York City sidewalk, patrolling or something outside of the New York Attorney General's home, all of this stuff, the going to Ghislaine Maxwell in Florida to interview her, all of that's happening theoretically under the supervision of Attorney General Pam Bondi. But one also gets the feeling that people like Todd Blanche are working on direct orders from his previous criminal client, Donald Trump, who Todd Blanche represented in court as a criminal defendant. All of this is happening under the roof that's supposed to be controlled by Pam Bondi.
Yeah, at the end of the day, she is the Attorney General of the United States, and it is her responsibility to manage the affairs of the Department of Justice. And when she's letting all this nonsense happen and not knocking heads together when this nonsense happens, that's a sign that she is frankly not in real control of the department, that it's all of these MAGA types charging around just trying to be as enthusiastically MAGA as possible for Donald Trump, but damaging their own reputations and damaging the department's reputation, and again, most importantly, damaging the credibility of the department with the district judges of the federal bench.
Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, thank you very much for starting off our discussions tonight.
Thank you.